Hello folks and welcome. This is Founder Rune with Fantasy Grounds College. I'm going to build Sildar Hallwinter, the iconic soldier from the Lost Mine of Phandelver series. If you've never played that campaign, I apologize for any spoilers, but we're going to take the traditional NPC stat block of Mr. Sildar Hallwinter and convert him over to a player character because I intend to use this in a later episode. So I want to convert him from his stat block over to his Fantasy Grounds character format. So I have some tools, I have some lore, I want to make some tokens, so I'm going to show you how that process would work. The other thing I want to do is incorporate some tokens that will reflect similar to his actual look on the official content. We're going to make a portrait, and we'll talk about that a little bit. So as I'm building the character, I'm going to explain the process so that it's not just, oh, here's the character. So I want to help you guys learn how to use Fantasy Grounds, and one of the ways to do that is while I'm working is to share the work that I'm doing and to explain some things if you guys have any questions. It might take me a little longer to create the character, but I don't mind doing that. I have the patience for it and a little bit of time. So if you guys want to follow along or ask questions or make suggestions, that's great. But Sildar Hallwinter is basically close to a third level warrior or soldier or fighter. So if that's something you're interested in, please join along and we will get going on this right now. So basically, I'm in Fantasy Grounds right now, and when I'm in Fantasy Grounds, I tend to want to start from scratch. So I just went to the character button on the right, and let me get my pointer up so you guys can see what I'm doing. Pointer is critical for showing what I'm doing, and I'll minimize it for now. But I went over here to the right where the characters are, and I clicked that open, and then I just click the green plus button to start a new character. Now if you click the star, that'll bring you up a character wizard, but I'm not going to use that. It's still in beta, so I'm not going to mess with that too much. But now this is basically my new character, and here's the character sheet. So I'm going to type in his name. So it's Sildar Hallwinter, and I don't know his exact level yet, but based on looking at this, he has to have his archetype, so it needs to be at least third level because he has his parry action, and that's one of the features that would come later on for an expert or one of the other archetypes, so I'll have to look at that. But he has, you know, his stats already there. I'm going to leave his stats alone and build the character and then adjust them as needed. So I'm not going to even bother adjusting the stats till after the fact. And then I'm going to build his character based on some of the stuff on the stat block. And then on the other tab, it has his background. And then I have some supplemental information about him that might help. So it just depends. But his key features are basically here. And when you level him up as a sidekick, these are what he gets for being this level. So if you were going to bring him up to third level, I'd have to do an improved critical hit. So that may also play into how I build him. So we'll see how that goes. And then action surge, just he can take an additional attack on top of his regular ones. But if you look at the stat block, he has a parry, which is, this is the original character sheet. He has a long sword and a heavy crossbow. So that's something I have to keep in mind when I'm building. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I want to get as close as I can. The other thing is he doesn't have any artwork, so I'm going to pick out a portrait and a token. I've already taken the liberty to kind of scan around for what I want. I'm going to use basically the equivalent of his photo, but I want to use something a little different and unique. So when I went online and I searched for images for Sildar Hallwinter plus PNG. So PNG files are a little bit more graphic intensive. They're larger files. They're usually higher definition. So his original sheet kind of looks, this is his original picture. So if you wanted to use that, you can right click, save image as, and then save it to your downloads folder temporarily. And then the other picture I was looking at, see, this one's already got most of the background cut out, so that's cool. The other thing I was looking at was the picture from before. Where did that go? It's really cool. Oh, this one. So I'm thinking about using this one. This one looks really good. It's more of a 3D kind of animated look. And it does look like him except for a different pose. So I think, and he has a little bit shorter hair. So I think I'm going to right click on this and save this image as. And we'll see what it comes up. So this is a PNG file, which I like, because it's a little bit higher quality. JPEGs are harder to work with, because when you stretch them, they get distorted. Oh yeah, that's going to look good. So immediately, what I'm going to do is crop this photo. I don't want all this background noise. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of bring this in a little bit to get rid of some of that excessive area. Kind of wish I had this top part more. Let's see if I can, there we go. So I don't want to lose that. And then that should be good. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And I'm just using the built-in Microsoft editor for now. Now if I want to make this fancier and I want to cut out all this crap in the background, I can right click on here and I'm going to open it with a different program that has a little bit more capability. In this case, I'm going to use GIMP because it's free. So GIMP is up here in my menu selection, and I'm going to click OK, and it's going to start loading GIMP. And I'm going to abandon this thing once it loads up a little bit more. And then I'm going to go ahead and close this. And as GIMP loads up, I'm going to get some messages that I need to look at. So while this is loading, what I'm doing is building Sildar Hallwinter from scratch. I'm actually getting my own pictures together. Now I don't own this artwork, so if you guys are going to use this for personal use, it shouldn't be a problem. But the minute you try to use it for a commercial endeavor, or you try to sell it or make money off of it, that's when the gray area starts. So just be careful with what you're working on. And then also be careful that you give this person credit. So this person here is from DeviantArt, and it's Leonides 2020 on DeviantArt. So we'll check his page out shortly. So if I click on this, this goes to his DeviantArt page. So I will add him to my favorites. I already have an account here. So, and then if you want to download the image from here, they've made that available for you to download it. And this is actually the full picture too, so that's cool. And then you can let people know who this is. I'm going to watch this artist, see what else they make. And obviously they've made other pictures, which is really cool. So this is the person who made the artwork, so we'll give them a little shout out there. And then the other thing is I found a stat block online to see if it matches the original. It does. It has this parry action, which I'm going to look at as we build the character. But for the most part, the first thing I want to do is I'm going to use Roll Advantage Token Stamp. So this is a tool to use that you can stretch and bring over to here. So without even messing with the photo too much, other than me cropping it, I could just straight up use that photo. But I want to cut the background out if I can later, so in case I want to use it somewhere else. So what I'm going to do is take and, for instance, I have a downloads folder, and this is the one that I edited. So if I drag and drop this on here, you can see the preview window over here to the right. So I can actually butt it up there because part of his head's chopped off. And then I can on the right side, I can kind of zoom this in a little bit so that I can see his face more. And then bring it down to where it chops his head off. And that should be a decent photo right there. There we go. So that's a pretty good mugshot. I mean, it could be a little bigger, but I kind of wanted a little bit of his shoulders. And this gives you a good impression of what Sildar might look like. Once you're done with this, you can put frames around this, but since it's going to go into Fantasy Grounds, it's going to go into this little square. So there's already a frame around it, so it's not necessary to do that. So what I'm going to do is go back to this page, and you can click download, and it will download that little thumbnail. And usually what I'll do is I'll zoom in a little bit, and as you can see, it gets a little bit more pixelated as you get in. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm not going to trim it anymore because I want it to be square. But I will make some minor adjustments. Like I can change the lighting a little bit, so I might just darken it just a hair. Normally you would lighten it up, but I usually like it a little darker. And I'm going to bump up the clarity. If you do it too high, it looks too over processed. So I'm just going to bump the clarity up a little bit. And then the vignette is the shadowing around the edges. I don't even want to mess with that, but you could. You can go with it. Yeah, that actually kind of looks good. So I might put the vignette on the very corners, which is kind of a shadowing. That brings his face out more. So if you lighten this up a touch, and then you add a vignette to it, the vignette is a really nice little effect. It kind of gives it that zoomed in quality. So I might stick with that. That's actually pretty cool. And then it just depends on the photo and how bright it is. So I need to bump up the brightness just a hair to see if you do put too much of the vignette on there, it shadows the face. So you just want on the very, very edges. That looks pretty decent without breaking the bank here. Now I'm going to hit save. And now that it's saved, I'm going to close this. And I'm going to go back to the downloads folder. And this is the actual photo that I believe that yeah, it's called Token 1. So I'm going to change that to Sildar, Hallwinter. And I'm just going to put portrait because that's what this is going to be. So Sildar Hallwinter portrait right here. So this is a lot of extra work, but this is some of the things you have to go to when you're making your own content and such. So I'm kind of using this as an example to kind of give you an idea of what to do. So now that I have that, edited and created, I'm going to open Fantasy Grounds back up. And I'm going to go to the Assets folder, which is in the far right corner on the bottom. So I'm going to open up Assets, and I'm going to change it to Portraits, because that's what this is going to be. And there's a data folder here for all of the different games that I have in Fantasy Grounds. So all the 5th edition rule set games that I have, it's going to be available. If I double click in data and I make a folder in here and put him in here, he'll be available for every game. If I don't do that, it's going to only be exclusive to this particular session. I think that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to click folder, and this is going to be on the back end. This is not going to be in the main part, but see the way it's set up now, it's set to this. So if you want it only for your campaign, you would have to make it in the campaign folder. Right now this is in the master folder, but if you go to Fantasy Grounds and then you go to campaigns, then you would choose which campaign you want to put it in. But in this case, I think I will leave it on the top level just to make it more accessible if I want to use it again. So if I double click on here and I click on folder, I have a folder called Custom Made Portraits. So these are things that I've already done in the past. So this is where I want to make a copy of this from the original folder. So I'm going to take this, right click on it, hit copy, and then go down over here and hit paste. And there you go. So this is now the photo that I'll have access throughout all the campaigns, not just this one. If I had put it in the subfolder for this campaign, I would only be able to access this from here. So now that I close that, you have to hit the refresh button down here, the refresh folder assets. Once it's done refreshing, I'm going to go into data and double check that it's there. And then whatever folder, in this case it's custom made. So now you can double click this and preview it. So that looks pretty good. So now when you want to pick that photo, you're going to want to double click and then double click the bag, which is the data folder, and then look for the custom one. I have one called Custom Made Portraits. And now I could pick his photo by double clicking it. And that is his new his avatar or whatever you want to call it. And then if you don't have a token for him, it will be in this area on the right. So that's his default token now. So that's just something that you're going to have to learn how that works. And if you have a token that you want to have made, or maybe you have one already, you can select one. So I might do that. But if I find a token that I like, I got to put a base on it. So I was kind of fighting with this yesterday, but now in GIMP, the reason I have this is in case I want to use this asset in some other work. So what I'm going to do is go to the magic wand tool. I'm in GIMP right now. And then if you go to this and you right click on the photo, especially if it's a JPEG, and then you go to layers, You can put a transparency layer on this, and more than likely it already has one. So if I go to layers and then go to transparency, you can add an alpha channel, which will allow you to help you to remove the background. And now the radius on the very edge of where this is going to cut is set at 3 pixels, so it'll kind of blend in a little bit and not be such a harsh cut. If you bump that down, it's a little bit more detectable. If you bump it up, it's less refined, so you have to play with that. And then the threshold, I'm going to bump that up a little bit more. That's the amount. And if you overdo it, it'll try to grab things from the actual thing you want to save, so you got to be careful. So when I click on this, it highlights this color here, and I'm going to hit delete. And see, it's already grabbing the armor, so I don't want that. So I will jack it down a little bit. And I'll click somewhere else. But see, then it grabs less material. So you kind of have to make a judgment call on what you want to do. But all I'm doing is highlighting areas outside of his body. And anything that I don't want, I'm just deleting it. And you can start seeing the checkered pattern in the background. That's the actual background noise or photo that they put in there to make this more artistic. But I actually just want Sildar himself, and I'll show you why shortly. But Sildar is basically a fictional character in the Forgotten Realms Lost Mine of Phandelver campaign. So if in case you're just tuning in, and what I'm doing is collecting some artwork for him in case I want to build something later. So as you go through here, you can systematically remove some of this background information back here. You don't need it. But if you bump up the sensitivity too high, it'll cut away some of his hair and maybe his armor. When I had it up to 20, it was trying to take away his armor, which I want to avoid. And then I just want to get rid of this stuff on the outside. And the reason it grabbed that other stuff because it was similar in color, so you have to be careful with that. It just something that the sensitivity of the software and how it detects the colors and stuff is what you're changing. So all you would do here is just, manually select whatever you want to get rid of. So I'm kind of being more careful. You can be a little bit more drastic, like I can bump this up a little bit and go from there once you get away from the colors that are not the same, because these are not the same, so it's not normally going to grab. This one might cause a problem. Nope, it didn't. See, now this one's the same color as the armor, so that's why it's doing that. So you got to be careful with, or it's a similar color than the armor has. So you have to be careful with that when you're using this technique, because it'll take things away that you don't want, and you'll notice a vacant spot or a kind of a weird distortion or anomaly that you didn't want in there. But basically, I'm just kind of taking my time and going through here and cutting away or deleting the bands of color. You can see where the artist kind of swirled, and they used some kind of plug-in to color the background. So I'm going to get rid of that. I'm trying to speed this up a little bit. This is some of the tediousness that I'm sure there's a better way to do it. But see, now I accidentally clicked on that, so I need to hit Control Z and put that back. See, I didn't want to remove that. So what you have to do, you have to be careful what you're clicking on, and then this, I'm going to dial back the sensitivity to 10. There we go. So that keeps it from grabbing this armor piece here. And then what you want to do is, while you have it down like this, see, I just took away part of his neck. I didn't want to do that. So you have to be careful where you're clicking, because it will... See, the reason why is because when you zoom in, this is close to that color. So take this down a little bit more and just try to grab this stuff here. And that's why you have to be careful with this stuff, because it will, the sensitivity of that tool will take away stuff that you don't want it to take away. So when you're getting around an area that's sensitive like this, where the colors are similar, you're going to have to mess with this a little bit more than normal. So if I want to jack this up to there, it grabs more stuff, but then you have the risk of it taking away some things that you don't want it to. So all I'm doing is getting rid of all this excess crap around. And there's other tools that do this better. This is a GIMP thing. This is kind of how I carefully go through, and I'll very meticulously take out all these extra little strokes here that we don't want. And then you can back this up and kind of go back to what you were doing. But for these areas that are close to the edge, you want to kind of see, that looks pretty good. But you want to behave with it and just be careful. This down here is armpit area. I'm going to grab this stuff. And you don't want to delete everything because some of this is shadowing, so you have to be kind of careful with that too. And I've learned over time that you'll get a feel for it. And some pictures are just not worth all the work. They're so close. The background is so close in color to the actual character or the image that you're trying to save. That's not worth it. So that is basically what I'm doing with this photo. Is I'm kind of cleaning it up so where if I want to place him on a different background, I can do that. So this is just a way to kind of incorporate images that you find into your campaigns to make it a little easier for you and not have to go out and commission somebody just for a one-time thing. This would just be for a show or a series that I want to do. I might even see if the author wants to play. That'd be kind of cool. Or the guy that made this image. That would be awesome if he would join us and play. That'd be cool. So there's nothing wrong with asking that. If you find someone that you really like an artwork or whatever they do, programming or website design, invite them to play. You'd imagine how far that goes. And maybe they'll cut you a deal on some kind of commission work or something. It's really not that hard to do. You just say, hey, I like that picture. You reach out to the artist, you throw them a few dollars, and you say, hey, I like your work. I'd like to invite you on my show or into my game. And then you never know, if you form a relationship with these people, and eventually you might be able to get a really good discount on some artwork if you ever get into developing your own content. So I think that this game is about developing relationships with people. So it's important that you remember that, and that you're not just being greedy and trying to just take everything for yourself. You need to incorporate people into your life and into your games so that they can help you, and so that you can have a more fulfilling and rewarding experience instead of just always you or always just the same 5 people. So it's important that you expand your life a little bit and go out and find out who these people are that create this stuff. Because that's what I do. I usually go out once I'm going to get a hold of this guy probably this weekend. I'll email him and reach out to him and tell him, hey, I used your artwork on a show. I really like it. How did you create it? What tools did you use? Do you have any suggestions? Do you have any new projects coming up? Things like that. That's really how you want to play this. So anyways, I got most of it out of there. Usually you can crop some of this out, but you want to get rid of a majority of it first. See, now I just deleted him. So I hit Control Z and that comes back. So all I'm doing is going around and kind of cleaning up the edges and these things out here. But basically, this is how you can strip away cleanly and without a bunch of, rugged cuts. You have to zoom in a little to see what you're doing. But then again, you got time factor in there too. So see, I took out some of this green, but it wasn't quite enough. So I'm going to come in here and clean up some of this because this is from the background. So I want to get rid of some of that. You don't have to get rid of every bit of it, but you want to get rid of some of it. Okay, so that's his hair. So now when you look, it doesn't look so green. There you go. So that's him in a nutshell. That looks pretty good, not bad for just kind of goofing around. There, I found that. There's some little things around the edges, but like I said, if you get too finite, you kind of ruin the shadowing and such. So that's not bad for cutting out the background. Now you don't have to do this, you can leave the background if you want, but I'm going to hit File, Export As, because I want to save this as a PNG. Now it's got this long title, so I'm going to go ahead and change that because that's too long. So I'm just going to call it Sildar Hallwinter 2, or no, I'll say Art. That's good. And then it'll be a .png file. So that's the file format. What's nice about PNG files is you can stretch them. And then you have to export. Choose the output format. I'm going to put PNG on here. And then I'm going to hit export. And then you tell it, you know, how much compression you want. I don't save the background color or the gamma or the offset or anything. I turn the compression down to 2 because I don't want it too compressed. I want to keep most of the quality, and then I hit export. So once I've done that, I can get out of GIMP. I'm not even going to bother saving that. I could have though. And then if you go back to wherever you saved it to, you should have the artwork for it without the background. So if I go to the downloads folder, here is the art without the background. So it looks pretty decent. You can see I left some of these artifacts in here. That won't be bad. That'll be pretty easy to clean up. But you can see that, you know, this is basically him. And then if I wanted to, like I said, cut some of that out, I can just kind of trim this up just a hair. That'll take a majority of it out. And then there's only just a few little bits in there. That's easily cleaned up. And then I hit save. But see, now he's no longer a perfect square, so you got to keep that in mind. Now I don't really care, so I'm going to take that out and I'm going to go to a paid service that I use, which is Canva. So Canva allows you to create content fairly easily and cheaply. So I'm going to create a new design, and it's going to be a custom size, 1920 by 1080. And then you need to find a background for this. So for right now, I'm just going to use this as my background, as I don't know what the background's going to be just yet. So this is roughly just the background I want to use. And then if I bring in the file itself in the uploads folder, I can go ahead and drag him, drop him, and see I've already worked on some of this a little bit. So if I take and I can put his horse in here, and Canva comes with a tool to get rid of the background color, so that's what I'll do with him. That's why I wasn't too worried. So I could have done this in Canva, but I want to clean up most of it so it doesn't work so hard. So this is his horse, supposedly. And then this is what I use in my other graphics. And now I'm going to take and grab his picture that I made, and I'm going to drag and drop this into Canva and use this in the photo. So once you do that, it'll upload, and I'm going to use this in the corner up here, and I'm going to stretch this to the full screen because this is basically a bust, or you know, like a full picture of him. Now his horse is in the background, which isn't bad. So what I might do is move him over, put the horse like back here, make sure it's sized appropriately, and then if I want to, I can flip him around so you don't have to have him in the same spot. We can just say that he's back in. don't know what happened. Okay, thanks for letting me know. Yeah, so hopefully I'm back. Maybe it could unplug or something. Yep, thanks for following, Smash. That's cool. Alright, so basically I'm just editing the graphics here for Sildar, and I can see it kind of moves around. I want to make sure that that stays where I want it. I think that's a really good position for him. I have his name over here, and now what I'm going to do is take and kind of pinch this in a little bit so we don't need to display that. And then if you wanted to like put a sword or something here, you could do that. So if you wanted to take a photo, let's take a look at a sword. Okay, so there's a basic blade right here. Now, this may not go with him very well. You can probably find something better, like maybe that blade, or I don't know, something that's a little bit more. I think I like this one, but this one looks cleaner. So what I'm going to do with this is, first of all, I'm going to probably make it yeah, it's about the right size. Yeah, it's about the right size. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to take and adjust the brightness and saturation so I can make it just a tad bit brighter, but then add some more contrast to it so some of the details are there. And then you can tint it a different color, whatever you want. So I just kind of brighten it up a little bit and put a little bit more contrast on it. I'm going to turn the contrast down a little bit. Okay, so that's basically a cool looking blade. But now I'm going to rotate it, so I'm going to flip it so it's coming that way instead of the other way. Then I'm going to rotate it so it looks more like he's carrying it on his back. And then I'm going to put this picture behind him and see what it looks like. So if I change I might change the opacity just a slight bit so it blends in a little bit. And then I'm going to take the position and go back. And that should, there we go. So if you wanted to make it look like he's carrying a sword, you can do something like that. So I don't know, it's up to you how you want to do it. But it kind of gives you the impression that I think it needs to be go a little bit more that way. But you got to play around with it. But it looks like he's carrying a blade now on his back, and it's not quite the right angle. So you know, you might have to play with that because it might look goofy. Let me flip it again and see what it does. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Let's see, we can flip Sildar, and this actually looks better in a way. So I kind of like it that way. So anyways, you can flip the photo around and see if it looks better. I kind of like it because it's more looking in the middle instead of off to the side, and it's more centered looking that way. And then I'll just bump him over just a hair. And then the blade, I think, needs to come down a little bit and in. Now let's see what that looks like. Yeah, that looks way better. Yeah, it doesn't look so goofy. It doesn't look like it's half drawn out or whatever, so that looks really good. I don't know, what do you think? Can you guys hear me yet? I don't know if you guys can hear me yet or not. I hope so. Anyway, so I'm working on Sildar here, and I'm just using some art that I found online and kind of putting together a collage here. So then what I might do is, if you do too much, then it gets too cluttered, but I want something in here. Maybe I'll put the Fantasy Grounds symbol. So let's go to the uploads and let's go to FG. Yeah, Fantasy Grounds symbol might be something I want to put in here since this is going to be a Fantasy Grounds type game. And then there's also logo, I think. Yeah, so there's a Fantasy Grounds. Yeah, this one goes better, I think, with the, I don't know. Which one do you guys like? Do you want the gray one or do you want the older brown one? The gray one kind of blends in a little bit more with the background. So if I move that over here, put that here, this is the the newer Fantasy Grounds label that they've been using. And then we also have the darker one. It's just a little bit older. So I mean, we could do either or. So what do you guys think? I don't know. Are you guys able to hear me? Anybody having mic issues still? Okay, anyways, the way that this is turning out is we can add Fantasy Grounds logo and make it look a little nicer. Put a drop shadow on it so it's not just a picture. So I can go to effects, and that way it doesn't just look like a layered label on top of something else. So if I put a drop shadow on it, it kind of gives it the little bit of shading here so it fits in a little better. Maybe make it a little bit bigger. How does that look? And get rid of this one. Yep. So it looks pretty, I don't know, maybe down there and make it a little smaller so it's not obnoxious. I don't know. But it just kind of makes this thing pop a little bit more. And I like the idea that you can manipulate the images. So anyways, that's just some artwork that I'm working on for Fantasy Grounds. So if you want to use something like this, you can, but just remember it's for personal use. And then I'm going to back off. If you do the opacity, you can kind of make this blend in a little bit better. So I think I'm going to put a little bit of opacity on there so that it kind of gives this nice little shape here. And you can still see the background a little bit. So that's pretty nice. I like the way that turned out. It's pretty color coordinated for the most part. You got silver, gold, kind of brownish colors and stuff. So that's not bad. More natural colors. So I want to add the Fantasy Grounds College logo. So I have this one that Duff made us a long time ago. So I might throw that somewhere, like maybe up in here, and make it kind of small so it's not as obnoxious. Maybe make this one a little bit smaller. There we go. And then I'll do the same thing. I'll blend this in a little bit. So I'll take that and put the opacity down a little bit. And then I'm going to take and add another kind of a drop cap shadow thing so that it doesn't look so, obviously placed in there. Okay, yep, a little bit of shadow on there goes a long way. And I think that's good. I think that really kind of shows what we can do when you have a little time and patience. Now you have this artwork here that we can use as a poster for social media or whatever you want to use it for. So now I'm going to take this and I'm going to export it so I can download the picture as it is. And it's going to be a PNG file. It's going to be a pretty good sized file, so I don't want to just leave it as is. I got to make it a little bit more small for Fantasy Grounds so it's not too herkin. And if you're going to share an image like this, you don't want to see that's the size of the photo basically. That's pretty big. So what we're going to want to do is resize this, and I might put a frame around it. So I don't like resizing it in this program, so I'm going to right click and open with like Corel or whatever. So I have Corel, so I'm going to open it up in there. Because this one, it'll do it, but I have a border I want to put on it. So I went in to close that. I'm going to close Canva for now, and there was our token thing that we were working on. And I'll show you that you can use the PNG file asset later. So you can clear the workspace and then come up with the actual PNG file, and then you don't have the background, and maybe make this a little bit bigger. And then if you want to turn that into a POG, you could. So here's the photo. Now I'm going to take the image and resize it. Right now it's 1080 by, or 1920 by 1080. So I'm going to go with 1000, which is the recommended width. And then the other side will just scale accordingly. And I'm going to hit OK. So now that brings that up into here, this is 100%. And that's about the size you want for Fantasy Grounds. Otherwise, it's too big or too small. So I'm going to save that. And then I'm going to add a border. So I'm just going to add a slight border, maybe white or black. Yeah, I think black border looks pretty good. So I just added just a real tiny thin black border. And now I'm going to adjust the size again to make up for that. And then I'm going to adjust the brightness and contrast a hair. And then I might even put a reflection on the shield. We'll see. Gotta see what this looks like. So if I bring this forward, this brighter section on the sword or on the shield could have a reflection. So I want to go ahead and click on effects, illumination effects. We'll do a little sunburst on it. And what it does is it'll put this little cursor on here. So right now it's centered here, but we could stick it right there. And it puts this little glare here. And I can bring the brightness up a little so you can see it. And I'll bring the density of this. There we go. Just about like that. I want to turn this one down. You can change the color too. So right now it's kind of a whitish color. But if you want to make it a little bit more gray, you could do that. But I want to leave it kind of a white color. So now you have this like this, I don't know how to say it, but like a sunburst, like a reflection coming off the tip of the sword. Kind of gives it a little bit more intensity. And then I brought up the visibility of the circles that bounce off these surfaces. And then I'm going to readjust where it's actually coming from. Because when you zoom in, you can see like where it is. So when you come over here and you're looking, you want to be able to see that where the glare is coming from. So I might go to 150 so I can see better. So right here you can see that, you know, it's coming off the sword. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And now to kind of blend it all together so it doesn't look like a bunch of pieces, I'm going to use a tool that gets rid of the noise. It's called one-step noise removal. And it kind of blends it all together. Kind of gives it that washed, kind of a fuzzy, kind of more of an ambient look. And it doesn't look as unphotoshopped. So if I hit undo, the picture's more clear. You can see all the texture. So it's kind of a choice. But I think I'm just going to leave it like that so it's a little bit more clear. But in certain photos you can get away with blending it. I kind of think I like the lines and such. And then I'm going to go ahead and export or save it. So it's saved now. And now what I'm going to do is use this as a poster or for whatever I need it for. And like I said, you can use this here as another token if you want. And then what I'm going to do is show you the frames. You can use a custom frame, or in this case, we're going to take it, put a square frame around it, or a beveled circle would look pretty good. And then you can change the color tint of that circle by going to tint, and let's go with more of a blue color, and then scale it back to where it's more like a steel blue, or more like a gray, which kind of matches his persona. And then bring this down a little bit. I make it a little bigger, actually. So I'm going to drag this color here. And then, since hair is kind of cut off, so we had to do it that way. And then maybe shrink that a little bit. Bring this back up so we have his chin in the picture. Make him centered. There we go. So that's his little, little pog if you wanted to make that. I'm going to hit download. And again, I will take and edit this a little bit. Not much, because I kind of like the way it is. But there's some adjustments I want to make. So I'm going to bump up the brightness just a hair. And the color, kind of like that. So I kind of bumped up the color of it. Just a touch. And then the clarity. And then I'm going to go ahead and save it. So these are all the steps that I go through when I'm working on it. It's different programs doing good things for different reasons. So that's why I'm showing you this tool. And then, like I said, this is how we found the pictures. We just kind of went online and looked for some photos that would work out. So hopefully you guys are getting some of this. You guys lose my voice again? Anybody hear me or watching? Huh. Hopefully you have my voice, because it's showing as broadcast, so I'm not sure what's going on. Maybe my mic wasn't set, I don't know. Could be on your end too, it's hard to say. So anyways, I'm going to go back into Fantasy Grounds, And if you go to your assets library, and then you go to images this time, I already have a campaign folder. So I'm going to go click on folder down here, and there's one poster that I've already made. So what I want to do is go into my downloads folder again, and I'm going to take and drag and drop the image that I made into that section, or I can copy and paste. And then this little pog here, I'm going to call this Sildar pog or something like that. And I can use this as a token if I want. So sildarpog.png. And then I'm going to copy and paste this into my tokens folder, asset folder. So if I go to Gundren and Sildar's Fall, and then I go to tokens and NPCs, I can add this as a choice. But I'm more than likely going to go with one of these top downs if I can find a good one. But for now, I can use that. And then when I hit the refresh button, it's going to refresh all the assets. So now I have this preview image of Sildar, and that's the photo. Now at this point, I can decide if I want to add it to my assets window. So if I want to take this and add it to my pictures, images and maps, and then I have a group for it. So I'm going to choose the group first. So here's that. And if I click on create image record, it'll put that in here and it'll come up with this photo here. Now what I could do is take this image, bring this up in Fantasy Grounds, maybe change the dimension of the map a little so it's, or the image, so it's not so square, it's more of a rectangular anyways. And then we'll take and put this in a sense of the context, so I'm going to go ahead and center this. There we go. Now what I'm going to do with this is go ahead and stretch it a little bit more, and let's see what it looks like. Yeah, it's starting to look a lot better. So that's for sizing reasons, you got to kind of mess with that. Now what I'm going to do is put an effect on it. So I'm going to lock the image. I'm going to go to the effects area. I'm going to add a new effect line, and then I'm going to pick one. So in this case, let's go with some rain. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and fence it off because I don't want it outside of here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the mask, and then click on reveal area, and I just want to reveal this area, nowhere else. So that means the rain will stay contained in here. And then what I want to do is change the direction of the rain to there, and then I want to turn the speed down a little bit, and the intensity, you can bring that up just a hair, and then the amount of rain, turn that down a little bit. So now you have a picture of him standing out in the rain, or you can just make mist if you don't like the rain. We put snow on him. I think I'll put mist. I think that's a lot cooler. And then I'll turn the speed down just a little bit so it's not so dramatic. And then I'll turn this down. Put a mask on it. It's already there. And you can see I didn't grab the whole thing. So I can remove the mask, put a new mask on, and reveal this area. There we go. And then you don't want too heavy because then it covers the picture. So there we go. And you can actually put, if this was transparent, you can put this behind so it wouldn't cover the picture, but that's neither here nor there. So that's what you can use for a handout or a poster, or you can even use this image in social media. So it's nice to have like a little artwork here. The other thing you could do is take that same image, now that I've made it an artwork thing, or now it's in my asset folder. Now I can take this and replace this image in the background. So this is the one I made earlier yesterday. So if I take this and actually go to the assets folder, I have to do it from there. So go to assets, and then go to your campaign or data folder, and then I'm going to double click, and that's the preview window. Then you're going to say set background decal. So now it is part of my background. So you could do it like that too. So hopefully that's something that's useful for you guys. I don't know if you care about that, but that's the amount of detail and work that can go into creating content for Fantasy Grounds or for any other rule set. So that is something that I do to play around with, the methodology that I use for creating content. So anybody hear me out there? I'm not sure if maybe everyone's going away because they still can't hear me. I don't know what's going on, but hopefully that gets fixed. Yeah, I don't know what's going on, but maybe the microphone volume got booted or something. I'm not sure. So anyways, I'm done playing around with art. Now I want to start making the character itself. So as you guys see, I already made this token up here. That was this. Actually, this is a portrait photo that I made for this particular character, and that's where that was taken from. Now if I want a token, I go to my token assets, and then I can go to campaign, NPCs, and remember I made this round one, so I could use that for my POG. So now when I put this on the combat tracker, he's going to have this round POG-like shape instead of this one. Or if I find a nice top down, I might use that. I don't know. But anyways, there's Sildar. Now, I had some material up here for his actual background. So, the fall of Hallwinter, this is the picture that I had for that. Now, I made some other story entries. So if I go to story, and then I'm going to filter it to this particular campaign data, and that's basically this. I got a Sildar section, and this is his stuff, but I want to go ahead and put that image in this so we have something for him. So I'm going to go ahead and hit that, and I'm going to put his image right there. I'm going to link it. So from this section here on the apps and images folder, I'm going to take this Sildar Hallwinter and drag and drop it onto here. So now I have a photo of him, if I want to use that, and it's in with my rest of my notes that I have. And then I'm going to take this part and highlight it a little bit and make it bold, and that will make that stand out. So when you're presenting this story, you can literally just take this and say, hey, here he is. And you can even make it smaller if you want. So that's Sildar there. And now I'm going to start building the character. So that's all that work for just a couple tokens. So just keep that in mind when you take on a project like this, that you're going to come across that type of work, potentially, depending on what you're doing. So just a matter of time and whatever you think you need to do. So I'm going to start building the character finally. So for class and level, I'm going to go up here and take and grab this so that I can start building. So his background is probably a soldier. I mean, I don't see why not. It says he's a retired soldier, and he was part of the Lord's Alliance. So immediately, I'm going to leave his stats because I have to adjust those later. So I'm going to bring up his NPC stat block. And that's the official one that comes from Lost Mine of Foundelver. But if I want to edit it, I have to make a copy. And to make a copy of anything like an NPC, you just drag and drop this over. So if you want to make another one of these, you can drag and drop it, and there's another copy of it. But I don't want two copies, so I'm going to delete that. But if you want to edit this character in NPC format and unlock it, you need to make a copy of it. So I'll go ahead and do that just in case I need anything. So he's a medium, he's human, neutral good. So on the back of a sheet, you can set that here. You would type it out just like it is here. Make sure it's spelled correctly, because it does matter. It doesn't have a size yet because I haven't picked race. Raymond, the door. No, that. Okay, so he's human, neutral good. 16 armor class, 27 hit points. So I'm not going to worry about that yet till the end. So I'm going to pick his background first. So I want to go to backgrounds, and I already have content loaded in my library. So if I go to my library, I got a ton of things loaded here for building characters. So that's going to make this process a little bit easier for me. So I'm going to go ahead and take and grab his background. So if I go to backgrounds, and then I go to soldier, there's this, and this one I'm grabbing from a module called Fellowship of Phandalin. I think it's the same thing as the Player's Handbook version. Let me check. Yeah, so they're similar. Yeah, basically, yeah, they're very similar. So either way, I'll do the Player's Handbook one just in case. So I'm going to drag and drop that into the backgrounds, and it will add athletics and intimidation. So on his sheet here, he has perception, but it adds a vehicle and a proficiency in a gaming set, but then it also has skills with, let's see if they wrote that on here. Yeah, they didn't put that in here. So you could potentially put that in this area. So if I put a comma, and I'm going to put athletics, which is +2, and then his, because he's only +2 proficiency, and then he's going to have, the other is intimidation. So that makes this a little bit closer to the real character. If you're going to build it like a character, that might be something you have to do. And then the strength and con saves looks right, because it's 2 plus the 1 that he gets from his strength, and then 2 plus the 1 that he gets from con. That's where these numbers come from. So I'm going to go ahead and close that, and now I'm going to pick his race, which we're going to have a human. So let's go to the races banner, and we're going to go to human. I'm just going to use the one out of the Player's Handbook, drag and drop that here, and that automatically increases everything to 11. So straight across the board, I don't know why this one is a real basic, but he should have an 11 here and 11 there, because everything's 11 if you're a character, that is. So that changes the stat block a little bit, because remember, we're going for a character more than an NPC. And then this little token up here, if I wanted to change that at this point, I go to my assets, and then go to tokens, which were already there, go to the data folder where I stored it, or go back to, let's see, go back up to campaign folder, and then I could double click and use the same POG that I used for the character. So that would be a cool way to kind of soup this up a little bit. And now we have our movement. We don't have any extra senses. And now I'm going to grab the fighter class, drag that over. So go to classes, and let's see what we got. So classes, yep, right here. And then I'm going to go down to fighter. And I have to pick which archetype he is, so when we get to 3rd level, we have to figure that out. So here's the fighter. Comes from the Player's Handbook. Drop that in, and now it wants me to pick 2 skills. So we already said we already have athletics and intimidation, and this one has perception, so we'll definitely pick perception as 1. But now we need to pick 1 more. So I don't know, what do you guys think? Should we give him survival, or insight maybe, or history? He doesn't have those yet. He already has athletics. Maybe acrobatics. Nah, I don't think so. Doesn't look very acrobatic to me. Did anybody hear? Can you still hear me? Whoever's watching? I don't know. Smash, is that you? Okay. Anyway, so now we're going to build and take it. I guess I'm going to go with insight, so you can see if people are lying or not. It could be history, athletics. Yeah, I think that maybe survival, since she was a soldier. That might be a thing. Okay. So I'll go ahead and click this and say, yep. And now if you look on his skills tab, he has all 4 of these skills. So I'm going to add this to the sheet here. So I'm going to add survival. That's also going to be +2. So he should have athletics, intimidation, perception, and survival. So that matches now. Doesn't have to, but these are what he has for a character. Now his passive perception is 12 because of his wisdom bonus. So he has a wisdom +1. His passive perception is 12. Now why is that? Huh. Let's see. His yeah, that's right. It comes from his wisdom bonus, and I think it's proficiency bonus or something like that, so it adds to it. That makes sense. Okay, so the next thing, oh, and we have proficiency in it too, so that helps. Okay, so now what we have is, before I build anything else, I'm going to level him up. So he has a couple things on his sheet. So he has a parry thing here, and then he gets 2 attacks. You normally don't get 2 attacks until 5th level. And at 5th level, you have a proficiency of 2. So I don't think that he's going to get the multi-attack, not until later levels. But I'm sure we'll have a way to balance that. So if I go to his class, and then I open up the class and level, I can drag and drop this little square here, the icon, whatever it is, and just drop it right back in here. And that levels him up to level 2. So he has his action surge down, he has additional hit points, so he's ready to go. So let's take a look. So there's his inventory, there's a log sheet. So here's his actions tab. So he's starting to become built, so that's good. But he has this fighting style archery, which he doesn't get those. And then there's a fighting style called protection. He might get that. And then dueling, which I don't think he gets that. So we're going to remove those. Because we haven't picked an archetype yet, so we'll see what happens. Fighting style. Yeah, I haven't picked my fighting style yet, so he gets second wind and action surge, which isn't listed on here. So I'd probably make that a thing. Or maybe that's why he has parry instead as an NPC. We'll find out. But we're building him as a character. So he has a light crossbow and a battle axe in his inventory. So I know that he's not going to have a battle axe. And it says he has... Let's see, what does he have for armor? Chainmail, so that's correct. So his armor class is 18 instead of 16. Now, why is that? Huh, interesting. So if I open this up to this sheet here, oh, it's because of his armor class bonus, or his dex bonus. No, it just says, oh, shield. That's why. So he may not have a shield, so I'm going to take that off. See, I know he doesn't have one because it's reflected in his armor class, so that's something I don't want to have. Now when I go back, yes, it's a lot closer to what he's supposed to be. Okay, so they want him to have this parry ability, which is a reaction. So I don't remember which fighting style or what it's going to ask me for, so I'm going to go ahead and bring this up. So a battle master would give him, let's see, student of war, combat superiority, in which you get maneuvers. And one of the maneuvers, I believe, is to parry. Yeah, so he's probably a battle master. So we'll go ahead and make that. And the other one would be champion. And that gives him improved critical. So in some stat blocks, he has an improved critical. In this case, he doesn't. So we're going to make him a... yeah, so we're going to make him a battle master. So I'll click that to select, and then go ahead and hit OK. And that will add whatever his fighting styles are. In this case, let's see, maneuver options, ambush, bait and switch, brace, commanding presence, grappling strike, Quick toss, technical assessment. That might be a cool thing, but we'll see. So he's 3rd level. That's about as high as I'm going to take him. And at 3rd level, he should have, if you're going to play by the rules as written, at 3rd level he should have 900 XP. And his next level for 4th would be 2700. So I just manually put that in there. And now the next thing is I'm going to take and put, let's see, I'm going to take and put, excuse my noise there. So athletics, he's got action surge, battle master. So battle master gives him, he gets to pick 1 type of artisan tools of your choice. That's kind of cool. So I'd probably make him be able to repair weapons or something along those lines. And it says here he gets simple and martial weapons. He picks 1 kind of gaming set, vehicles land, and then he can wear all armor and he can use all shields. So in his skills tab, I'm going to go ahead and add a couple of these. And these are going to be his tertiary things. So vehicles land is going to be basically a chariot. So he can ride a small 1 or 2 man chariot that's pulled by a horse. And I'll make that strength based or constitution for being able to handle the ride, or whatever animal handling is. So that's wisdom. Kind of doesn't make sense because you're controlling a vehicle, not the animal, but the animal is part of it. So I guess the animal handling check would come with the chariot, or maybe comes with it. I don't know. Anyway, so the other thing would be a tool of his choice, an artisan tool. So I'm going to put artisan tool because I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be related to weapons and armor. So he could just be someone that paints stuff on there. So I'm just going to make artisan tool more of a like a wisdom based thing that he learned in the military, and now he has the roles for those, and that's artisan. Okay, that looks right. And then it says he gets let's see, student of war. Yeah, so artisan's tools, he gets 1 type, so it's probably going to be smithy or weaponsmith or something like that, so we'll see. And then for the vehicles land, it's going to be chariot, so that comes off of his abilities tab. And then he gets 1 type of gaming set, so I think he's a dice man or a cards guy. I think maybe cards. So let me look at the items. I'm actually going to give him the inventory too. I mean, just because you're proficient doesn't necessarily give you the items, but I'm going to go ahead and throw those in there. So if I go to tool, let's see, artisan tools. So I'll go ahead and grab that there. And then the other thing was he has his dice set or card. So let me see what the card says. Yeah, playing card set or a marked set. So he's going to have playing cards. Something he picked up in the military to pass time. And then I put a weight on these, so even though they're not very heavy, I always have a weight. So like this trophy of a fallen enemy, that should be at least 2 pounds. And then the dice, I made them a fraction, and then the playing card set, I made it 1/10 of a pound. So you get the a small amount basically. So that's that. And then I'm not going to give him a chariot because he's not going to carry that. But basically, he's got his tools that he would, or things that he's proficient with him. Now that isn't always the case, but in this case it is. So I went ahead and made those as rollable skills just in case. That way, if he needs to do something, then it's there for him. I'm gonna check the stream here. It's a little odd. Someone said I wasn't making any noise, so let's see what happened here. So if I go to our channel on YouTube, which by the way, we have a channel, and it says live now. Yeah, it's coming through. So I'm not sure why no one had audio. But it could be on your end if that's the case. All right, so maybe it dropped out for a little bit for bandwidth reasons. Who knows? But anyway, so I'm going to go back to, I'll shut that off. and go back to Fantasy Grounds. Now that I've added those, and then I get a thing for being a student of war. Let's see, where does it say Battle Master, and then student of war gives them an extra. Let's see, so student of war, that gives them an extra artisan tool. So I'm just gonna put the note there that I grabbed the artisan tools, and then after that we're gonna do his military rank, like where he was when he left off. So we can roll on the table. There's a soldier specialty, and then you have rank too. So those are different things. So let's see what he was. I would say cavalry or something like that. So let's see what the dice says. It may conflict with us. Oh, it says cavalry. What do you know? I think that was meant to be. So in his abilities, or excuse me, his notes, I'm just going to drag and drop that up there so I can remember to... And it's going to be the Griffin Riders, because that's part of his affiliation with the Lord's Alliance. So I'll put that here, because it's important that you kind of know these little things about these characters, especially if you want to play them or role play them and such. So that's kind of cool. And then his rank, I don't think he was very high ranking. He probably has A rank, but let's see, you can't invoke your rank to exert influence over other soldiers. Oh, you can. Oh, okay. So if he gets around any other soldiers or a fortress or a military encampment, his rank might be recognized and he might have a little bit more authority and influence. So that's good to know. So I'm going to put that as a note down here in parentheses, military. Because that's more of a role play thing and it's up to your game master, but I want to have that. I think he had to have had some kind of, maybe a lieutenant or something. I don't think he was a captain or anything, so we'll see. But that's cool. And now his traits, bonds, and flaws. So they have some already suggested for him, but I kind of want to pick my own in this case, especially if it's role playing. So I'm not going to roll, but you can. If you pop up these tables and roll on it, it gives you something that says, I've lost too many friends and I'm slow to make new ones. This one says, I'm polite and respectful. I'm haunted by memories of war. I can't get the images of violence out of my head. I've lost too many friends. I'm full of inspiring and cautionary tales from his military. I don't see him doing that. You stare down a hellhound without flinching. He enjoys strong and like-breaking things. His crude sense of humor, faces problems head-on. A simple, direct solution. Okay, so I think in this case, if I was to choose one of these, I would say he's haunted by the images of his past, and because you get two of them in this case, so he would probably say he's lost a lot of friends. It's hard for him to make new ones. So that's his secondary. Now for ideals, something he's idealist. He wants the greater good, lay down the lives, responsibility, independence, might, live and let live, and nation. Okay, so I think the greater good is his ultimate thing here. He is neutral good, so he's all about goodness. And then for his bonds, he said he'd lay down his life for the people he serves. Someone saved my life on the battlefield. I hope to return this. My honor is my life. I'll never forget the crushing defeat. Those who fight beside me are worth dying for. I fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. It's probably going to be he lays down his life, because basically he does. And then flaws would be the monstrous enemy we face in battle still leaves me quivering. I have little respect for anyone who is not a proven warrior. I made a terrible mistake in battle that cost many lives, and I would do anything to keep that a secret. That might be his thing. His hatred of his enemies is blind. He obeys the law, even if it causes misery. He'd rather eat his armor than admit he's wrong. I think he made a mistake in battle. That's what I think. That's why he got out of the military. So that's basically, you know, his background kind of goes with his soldier kind of mentality. And he's got the right stuff, and you know, as far as this goes. If I was going to give him another skill, it would probably be animal handling, but so be it. Action surge, combat superiority. So you get 2 maneuvers. So, oh wait, maneuvers. You learn 3 maneuvers of your choice. So we'll have to take a look at that. So the maneuvers, one of them is going to be that parry. So that's more of a reaction. So we're going to put parry as one of the combat superiority things. Pushing attack. Now rally might be another one for his military background. Sweeping attack. He takes a creature with a melee weapon. You can spend one to attempt to damage another creature with the same attack. That might be cool. Or trip attack. I don't see him tripping anybody. Pushing attack, menacing attack, maneuvering, lunging, distracting, disarming. I think that might be one. I'm going to go with disarming. I can see him doing that. So those are his 3 main combat superiority tactics. And that covers his parry too, so that's cool. And then he gets to... Let's see, he gets fighting style, action surge. So what is his fighting style? More than likely defense. So if he's wearing armor, you gain a +1. There's dueling, and there's great weapon fighting. Protection. 2 weapon. Yeah, I think he's going to go with defensive. But that messes with his armor class, so no, we're not going to pick that. So fighting style is done. But I'm going to probably have to go with great weapon attack. He doesn't use a great weapon. Protection is probably going to be the one. When a creature you see attacks a target other than you, it's 5 feet, you can use your reaction to impose disadvantage. And you have to wear a shield. Well, he doesn't wear a shield. 2 weapon fighting, no dueling. When wielding a melee weapon in one hand and no other weapons, you gain a +2 on damage. That works. So fighting style, dueling. So I'm making notations of this. And then martial archetype, military rank. We're going to say he was like a lieutenant at the most. So, and then second win. So that's basically all his features. He has one choice. I think he's going to pick Dwarvish for language. I think he fought alongside some dwarves. And then he also gets along with Gundren and them. So it's probably why he deals with those guys, or why they deal with him. And then I'm going to organize his inventory. So right now, does he have a pouch? Yep. He has some torches. So I'm going to, anything that's going to get stored in the backpack, I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Even his water skin, even though it's probably hanging on him. And then his food. And then the rope is going to be tied up in a coil in his backpack. Playing card set, I'm going to put that in his pouch. His insignia from his military, I'll put that in his pouch for now. He has a hammer, that'll go in his backpack. He has a dice set, that will go in his pouch. And then he has some crossbow bolts, so I don't have a case here, so I'm going to go ahead and grab a case from the items list here. So I'm giving him a few things, taking a few things away. Just kind of balancing out. So here's his case for his crossbow bolts. So the artisan tools are going to be in his backpack. And then his bolts are going to be in the case. And then he has... Oops. I don't put a case inside of a case. I gotta put that in the bolts area. So where is the bolts? Here they go. So those go in the case. Not the case does not go in the case. I'm gonna put his common clothes in his backpack because he's probably wearing his underclothes and his armor and such. So it has chainmail equipped, crossbow light. So we were saying that he has a heavy crossbow. So we'll get rid of that. And then his stat block here says he has a long sword, and he has parry, and he has a heavy crossbow. So long sword. And then he has a heavy crossbow. Heavy crossbow right there. Heavy crossbow. Okay. So that's his weapons. And when you add weapons to the sheet like that, they'll start showing up here on the actions tab. So he has 20 bolts. And this longsword, you have to toggle between single-handed or one-handed. So that's something you have to remember. Right now he has it used single-handedly. He has action surge and second wind, and then he has those other maneuvers, which I'll get that going here shortly. And then he's got his armor and such. Yeah, so this is pretty much a done deal. We've already taken care of most of it. And let's see, he has that equipped, that equipped, that equipped. This pythons are going to go in his backpack with his hammer. And his tinderbox is going to go in his backpack. So now we got all his inventory straightened out. He might have different coins, but I'll leave that. And then here's his background. He's a male. They said he's around 50, so I'll just put that there. He has an average height of 6 foot. That was in one of his descriptions. So 6 foot 0 inches, probably about 198 pounds, soaking wet. I don't know what his deity would be, so probably Helm or someone like that. So I'll just put that there for now. And he's pretty much good to go as far as content goes. Now I'm going to go to his actions tab and finish that up. So he has a few extra maneuvers and such. He doesn't have any racial abilities, so we don't have to worry about that. These items, I'm going to add more to it. So there's going to be, let's see, his water skin, his rations, his torches. So those are things. Oh, I already had water skin. No, it didn't. And torch is already in there. Okay, never mind. So get rid of that. I don't need 2 torches. So this is the stuff. And then when we go to preparation mode, this stuff is only one-time use. So the crowbar isn't, but the torch, the rations, and the water skin are one-time use. So we got his food, his water, this crowbar, which should probably go in a different area, but that's fine. It's just an advantage if you want to pry open something. And then you got your water skin. So now when I go back to combat mode, we got our usages here. And then this would be the actions tab. So we're almost done. He's got his standard actions here, action surge, and his second wind. I'm going to go into I'm going to use some of Rob Tui's coding effects here, because I have most of it done, but I want to add a couple more things. So I'm going to use the filter and go to class features. And then I'm going to look for fighter. So instead of doing that, I'll just use source on the bottom, this filter, and then go to fighter. And that should take care of that. And let's see, he has protection. So that is something he does have. Yeah, he has... Oh, his fighting style was... Yeah, we picked protection. Oh, it was dueling, that's right. So that is not covered in here, so we don't have to worry about that. Second wind is here, action surge is here. Yeah, I think he's pretty good. I mean, I just got to come up with his maneuvers, so let's go to check for combat maneuvers and his superiority dice. So that's what we'll do. We'll make another group. So I'm going to call this add power group, and I'm going to change this to summary and standard and a group, and I'm going to call this combat superiority. Then when I click away, it actually makes a new group. So I get some superiority dice, so I need to look at that. And then I want to go to get rid of this thing here and type in maneuver. I'll just type in man. So here's the combat maneuvers. So we have fighter, combat, we have commander strike, maneuvering, echo, warding, elegant. So I don't see anything that really would warrant that other than... Okay, here's all the superiorities. So yeah, we'll put those in. So right now I'm going to call this superiority dice. And all of this is going to do is just give me superiority dice. And all this is going to do is, give me the ability to put some dice onto my rolls. Okay, and then basically this also allows me to keep track of them. So on the abilities tab, when you go to combat superiority, it says that you gain X amount of points. So you have 4 dice, which are D8s, and the superiority die is expended when you use it. You regain all of your superiority dice when you finish a short or long rest. So that is cool. So I'm going to go back to this area, and I'm going to put a note in here that it's 4D8 basically, and then I'm going to set up the active groups here so that when he uses it, he gets 4, but it's going to say rest instead of daily. So he gains those back as he does a short rest. And there's the dice. So as you use them up, you just click them off. And then he's going to have basically the rest of his maneuvers. So he has disarming strike. Disarming strike. That was one of them. And then I'm going to have, let's see, parry. And that's a reaction. And then there was rally, which is a bonus action. So those are what I have. It's a pretty good mix of things. So yeah, parry, rally, disarming is what he has. So now that he has those on his sheet, if I go to the actions and combat mode, there's the parry, which will heal basically. There's the rally, which will temporarily heal. And then there is the disarming and the damage or the superiority roll, and then the disarming effect. So that's pretty cool. So I have all this combat superiority fixed. I'm going to put this superiority up on top, so I'm going to put a 1 in front of it. That way it actually goes up to the top of this list instead of just all the way at the bottom. There we go. So that's how you move those up and down. So now he's 1 superiority dice, so I wanted that on top. And then for this fighter thing, this is for his fighting stuff, so you get second wind and action surge. So that's pretty much the majority of what we need to do with him. Other than his backstory, I mean, there's really no reason for this to be not called complete. So if I want to go to his backstory, I have all this stuff here. So if I wanted to, I can get into, from his history on up, just copy and paste this into his notes here, because I've already done a lot of his backstory. So now I can just take this and kind of fix it up a little bit, so it's not such a mess. There we go. Get rid of this politics. I don't want to put that on there. Okay, and then here's his description. So put that right there. And then those things here can go away. We don't need those. So there's his history. We already had that figured out. So there we go. So now that I'm done with the work, I might transfer some of this over to the NPC in case I want to use this as an NPC as well, depending on the situation. But that's pretty fair. So I'm going to do a right/save just for the heck of it. That saves all my work just in case. And if I want to access this character later to make it simpler for me, I could essentially link it here. So now I can take this pin and link it here. And I can just put character sheet. And then I will highlight this so it stands out. There we go. So now when I want to bring up his sheet, I can come right to this backstory thing that has the image that I put in there. And it also has this Hallwinter thing. And on the NPC, if I wanted to use that image as well on this other tab, I can unlock this. Maybe call this Sildar Hallwinter. And then use this as a kind of like a header. And then I'm going to just hit Control 2 after I highlight that text. And that gives you the bold here, or the highlighted red. Basically, that's your header. And then in this space here, I'm going to put that graphic. So if I go to Images, and I open up Hallwinter's images, I can link this photo to his graphics up here for the NPC. And then that would be what you would bring up if you wanted to use them as an NPC. So that is that. So I think I'm done. Just kind of give you an idea how to use Fantasy Grounds and the steps that it takes to get things entered and such. So that's a pretty good start. Next time I'm going to build the dwarf Gundren. He won't be as complex, as he's only like first or second level. So, and he may not even have a class. I might just make him an NPC. We'll see. Because I have his brothers too. I kind of want to make them characters, so that just in case people want to play them. I think that should be good. Hey, Rolvis, what's up? All right, I think that's about it. So we just converted Sildar Hallwinter from an NPC to like a player. Gave him a little bit more stuff to work with, and his equipment matches and his stats. Oh, I didn't fix the stats. So I'm going to go to his character, and I need to bring up his NPC thing. I forgot all about that. So the fall of... Okay, here we go. So here's Sildar again. So like I said, if I go to his NPC sheet... Oh, that's a blank. There we go. So I gotta re-link that because that's a blank sheet. Okay. So basically, I want to look at his stats. So if I look at it here, it should be 13. And this one should be 10, but it's 11 because he's human. So I'll just bring it back to where he's supposed to be. 12 for con. So I don't know why that's any different, but anyways. And then 10 for intelligence. And then 11 for wisdom and 10 for charisma. So that's basically his stats in a nutshell. So it's not overpowered. Alright, so that should be that. And then I think I'm good. So call it a night. So when you want to exit, you right click, you click on exit session, and click return to launcher. That's the best way to exit. And I think that'll be about it. I don't have anything else unless you guys have any questions. Again, if you want help, nothing much is goofing around and watching some of your mad skills. So thanks, Silvis. It's good to hear from you again. I'd like to see you come back when you can. Yeah, so everybody, thanks for joining, and I will put this up on the YouTube channel, and I'll put a little bit more description in there if I need to, and then